15 Things You Should Never Do in Austria. Before we get started, be sure to double-check the title and truly understand that the country we are talking about is Austria, not Australia. And just like any other countries in the world, Austria has its own culture and customs that visitors need to respect. If you want to have an amazing time on your trip, here are 15 things you should never do when visiting Austria. Number 1. Never mistake Austria for Germany. If you happen to be traveling to Austria, then you probably already know that it is not part of Germany but in fact, its very own country. Never mistake Austria for Germany, even if all you hear is German, and much of the landscape reminds you of their neighbor. Number 2. Never insult the Austrian schnitzel. No matter who tells you that the schnitzel originated in Germany, they're wrong. Austrians are very proud of their heritage and the different food they produce. Thankfully, there are other types of food to try if schnitzel isn't your thing, like apfelstrudel and many other scrumptious foods. And while you should never insult the Wiener Schnitzel, you shouldn't bother trying to count your calories either. Number 3. Never assume everyone understands English. Although a majority of people in Austria speak English, you should never assume that everyone will understand you. To be able to help yourself, be sure to write down a few German phrases on a piece of paper, as well as the name and address of your hotel, to keep with you at all times. That way, if you find yourself lost, you'll be able to find your way back to where you're staying at least. Number 4. Never talk about the sound of music. Who doesn't love the sound of music and everything that comes along with it? Apparently, the Austrian people. Despite how much you love this movie, do yourself a favor and never talk about the movie when visiting Austria. When the film was released back in 1965, it was a huge flop in both Austria and Germany, and people felt that it was done in bad taste so soon after World War II. It also wasn't how they remembered the actual war either. Number 5. Never go out on Sundays. Austrians stick to the ancient belief that Sundays are meant to be a day of rest. If you happen to be there when a Sunday will pass, don't expect any of the shops to be open, even if you happen to be staying in the capital of Vienna. Of course, restaurants and cafes tend to remain open for tourists and the like, but it might help to keep your hotel well stocked with snacks, just in case. Number 6. Never waste your money on bottled water. Never waste your money on bottled water if you don't have to, because the water in Austria is rated among the top 5 best drinking water in the world. What could be cleaner than fresh water from the Alps? The problem is that some cafes find it rude to request house water, and expect that you order still water, unless you really do prefer sparkling water. Number 7. Never think the bread is free. When visiting restaurants, never think that the free bread is actually free. Unlike the States, where bread is given to customers to bide the time for when their actual meals arrive, in Austria, if you eat the bread they place on the table, you will find it on your bill at the end of the down. Number 8. Never accept rude waiters. One comment that many tourists that visit Austria complain about it is that more often than not, the waiters are rude. Sadly, the locals don't like this because this type of behavior leaves a lasting impression on visitors. Austrians consider themselves very hospitable people, so if you find yourself stuck with a rude waiter during your meal, then be sure to complain, and don't accept anything but courtesy and respect. Number 9. Never make too much noise. Most Austrians aren't known to be overly rowdy, and they don't appreciate it when visitors are. So when in Austria, never make too much noise, after 10 p.m. at least. Locals tend to keep things very quiet and relaxed by 10 p.m. to rest, and they expect the same respect from those visiting their country. Number 10. Never forget to tip your waiter. Gratuity isn't common practice everywhere in the world, but it is expected in Austria. 10% is actually the standard amount, but more is always welcome, of course. It doesn't help though that more often than not, waiters are known to be callous in their interactions with customers, even though they know they'll get tipped automatically. Number 11, never look down on smokers. Whatever you do, never look down on smokers in Austria, because it is just a common habit for them. They do have designated smoking areas known as Raucherbereiche though, so if you are a smoker yourself, be sure to look out for these types of signs before lighting up. Maybe one day, they will be part of the non-smokers union, but until then, puff away. Number 12, never get upset if they charge for public bathroom use. This may seem like an incredibly strange practice for most Americans, but much like other touristy areas in Europe, they actually charge for using public bathrooms. If you need to go and need to pay, don't get upset, it's normal in these parts of the world. Number 13, never miss a payment on the U-Bahn. The U-Bahn, or otherwise Underground Railway, is one of the most effective ways to get around when in Austria. But if you decide to ride on the U-Bahn, be sure that you don't miss paying for your ride, even if there are no barriers to stop you from getting on and off. Number 14, never change money in Austria. Much like the other countries that are a part of the EU, Austria uses euros as their form of currency. But before heading over for your trip, be sure to bring your euros with you from the start, and try to never have to change money in the money changers or banks, because you won't get the best bank rates there like you will back home. Number 15, never pay for their taxes. If you happen to be a non-EU citizen visiting Austria, then make sure to ask for value-added tax reimbursements when applicable. While it is required when you pay for your items, actual VAT is for locals, which doesn't need to be paid for by visitors. When you arrive at the airport before going back home, you can get a certain percentage of your money back for this. Just make sure that you fill out all the forms properly to save yourself any trouble when getting the actual refund.